How you doing, guys? We are live again. It's a beautiful day on this Monday, March the 12th, and we are here for episode number 20 of Mind, Body, Bank Account. I'm your host, Mike Kett. I'm forged by the fire, and tonight I'm very fortunate to have a guest to speak with us tonight about money again. I have Doug Gray, who... Hey, Doug, how you doing? We'll get you on the camera in just one moment. Doug Gray is a direct success coach. Direct. We'll have him speak on that a little bit further about what that is an acronym for. He's also the author of What the Financial Institutions Aren't Telling You. So prepare to get some incredible information that you wouldn't be getting at the banks. So Doug is all about helping entrepreneurs and small businesses plan and build their financial health and wellness, which is what we're all here for, right? The whole premise of this show is to push people up, give them some tools, give them some insight to help them on their path to becoming great, whether it's in business or personal life, financial life, relationships. It's all about pushing people up so they can become the best that they can be. And Doug Gray is going to share with us some information tonight. So remember, Doug is also going to be featured in Coach's Corner at the Toronto Women's Expo on Tuesday, March the 27th in Vaughan, Ontario. So if you haven't already booked your tickets, follow the links below and be there because you're going to want this information. Doug, happy to have you on the show, my friend.
Mike, this is a pleasure, and this is certainly a pleasure and honor for me, so I'm happy to be here.
Good stuff, good stuff. Well, listen, Doug, we chatted a few minutes prior to us coming on live here, a little bit about what you do, but share with our viewers, who is Doug Gray? What is the direct success coach all about? What do you do for people?
Okay, well, my direct success coach comes from my book, which I am an author primarily, and my book is What the Financial Institutions Aren't Telling You. Now, I don't knock the financial institutions at all. I just try to provide some additional information that is very appropriate and necessary for our children and grandchildren, certainly in their financial futures. And I find my experience is with a typical successful business entrepreneur is so focused on running their own business and managing their own business that they haven't necessarily put all of the right ingredients in place for their own financial future. So my direct is an acronym, and the D stands for develop knowledge. The I, etc. So there's 6 chapters in the book that are dedicated to providing and giving necessary information to develop your own financial future. And then the book does end with a workshop session. My passion, my goal is to put the small business entrepreneur on an equal playing field with the financial institutions. And just as an example, one of the key points is the E in my direct stands for exit strategy.
Right.
Now, typically in the banking institution world today, they're not assisting in getting you out of debt. It used to be that we could just get a car loan. Make 36 payments, the car loan would be over with, and we'd own the car. But now the banks are basically just doing what I call never-ending, ever-increasing lines of credit. So they will approve you for a $50,000 line of credit. You buy your car, and you make your payments faithfully, and the first thing you know, they want to increase your line of credit.
Of course.
So basically, it's a never-ending debt. And so my strong advice through the E for exit strategy is to know exactly when you're going to be getting out of that debt.
Right.
And just as an example, you can save tens of thousands of dollars. You can save easily, let's say, for example, with a mortgage. You can save hundreds of thousands of dollars over the life of the mortgage, but you can save tens of thousands of dollars over the term of the mortgage, which may be 5 years. Now, Canadians today are typically, when they take a mortgage, interested in knowing what are the prepayment privileges. But then statistically, and I show evidence for this, statistically, the highest percentage do not actually make any of these prepayment privileges.
Right.
So they're interested in having prepayment privileges. So I talk a lot in the book about discretionary spending. And another thing today, Mike, and you may relate to this, is that we're a busy society, 24/7, which is great. But people consider discretionary spending, Tim Hortons on the way to work in the morning, Starbucks at lunchtime.
Yep.
Then you get home from work and you say, oh, too exhausted, tired, don't want to cook dinner, so you go out for dinner. So now we're spending, you can very easily get up to a mortgage payment monthly, or at least, so if your prepayment privilege allows you to make an additional payment or add 20% to your payment annually, you can save that money by just looking carefully at what your actual discretionary spending is. Is it a need or a want? And there are ways, and this will, in the 5-year term, on an average mortgage, save tens of thousands of dollars, and over the life of the mortgage, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Wow.
So one of the things I'm happy about, and I will be very shortly coming up, as you mentioned, March 27th, in the Coach's Corner. And so I'm happy to say and proud to say I consider myself to be a giver. You will see people that are very tight-fisted with the information they have, and they don't want to share that information.
Right.
Number one, I do base my information on fact, and number two, I am happy to share. I'm not always looking for the what's in it for me, the whiffum, but in the long run, that's always very important. But in the shorter run and day-to-day, it's my passion is to put my clients and certainly the small business entrepreneur on a level, equal playing field with their financial institution. And I always say, I answer my phone.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, no, quite frequently, and I've had so many people tell me that they cannot even get their banks to return their phone call.
Of course.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about Doug Gray.
Perfect. I like what you say though about sharing, about providing information, about not being tight-fisted with what you have, because I think one of the things we talk about on this show is when you can help others get what they want, you'll get what you want. So
absolutely
right. I mean, the more people we can help, just the way the universe works, you will get it back to yourself, right?
Well, that's karma, and I do talk about in my DIRECT acronym, D stands for developing knowledge.
Right.
And you know what? If there's information available, there's really nothing that I could put into a book or that is not available through a Google search, or you go to your local library branch, and all of this information is out there. But the main problem, and here when we get into a business situation where there are partners, so there's a partnership, or we get into a marriage situation as husband and wife. And so often these partners are not on the same page.
Right.
Now, I talk a lot about getting a partnership, and I'm not pointing to the husband or to the wife, but you may have the wife out there very successfully working and bringing in money, hundreds of thousands of dollars. The husband is out buying designer jeans for the teenage son. So that's not necessarily on the same page.
True.
Or again, the discretionary spending. The husband is out there buying his Tim Hortons, Starbucks, etc. Or, vice versa. Obviously, it's the husband working and
Sure.
the wife is out there. So bring in a partnership, husband, wife, business partners, get onto the same page, develop goals. Now, I talk about four major pillars: family, health, wealth, and happiness.
Look, you
And
do
so,
answer your phone.
no, that's actually a fax line in the background there. Otherwise, I would have jumped up and answered it.
Okay, so we got the four
But no,
the pillars. Sorry.
okay, so family, health, wealth, and happiness. And so, you know, talking about goal setting, and under the family, there's subcategories,
Right.
which all has, so, but if you focus, and the other important thing I should mention in terms of goal setting, they must be written goals.
Yes, sir.
We all, everybody, you ask anybody, and they say, I want to be a millionaire. Well, what is your plan to get there?
Yep.
And that's where it falls short. And unfortunately today, and particularly, obviously, you can see I'm an older guy. I'm a baby boomer, but many of the millennials today have picked up where their parents left off and have accumulated. Canadians are further in debt than ever before in history, and with no exit strategy.
Right.
And with no particular goals. Their financial plan in terms of their own retirement and future is that, well, hopefully I'll win a lottery someday.
Scary.
And it is. So I think the latest statistics have Canadians at about $1.70 in debt for every dollar of disposable income. And so, we have to try to put a stop to it. We can't, correct. We can't just wave a magic wand and correct everything. But we can work on our own little corner of life.
Yep.
And certainly through my practice in Direct Success Coach, I just give you a quick story for an example. I had a client, and they were both recent graduates. The husband is a graduate lawyer. The wife is a practicing family, now set up in practice as a family physician. They came to me with over $250,000 in debt, a big part of which was student loan debt.
Yes, sir.
And the husband, who's the lawyer, actually said to me, well, I thought that debt would just disappear someday.
Wow.
Hello?
Yeah.
So,
Poof,
now but this is where, unfortunately, the reality check is not necessarily there. And student loan debts is wonderful. They to get knowledge and develop an education.
Sure.
And to do it, obviously, it's costly today, and certainly in Ontario, one of the things they weren't telling us is that education, we consider education to be free, but certainly not at college or university level.
No,
it's
sir.
very expensive. And so suddenly the banks are offering student loan debts, and people are graduating $50, $60, $80, $100,000 in debt.
Yep.
And then they want to buy their SUVs, and suddenly they're
And have that
100 and something.
instant gratification. They want a $200,000 job next week, and
so
no
it's
plan to pay the
tough,
debt back.
And so one of the things, and I asked the question, and I'm specific about this, why aren't they teaching us this stuff in school? And unfortunately, they've only just recently in Ontario introduced some type of financial literacy in grade 10 curriculum. But it's a very minimal. Now, the credit bureau, for example, there's nowhere, and it should be in our public schools, never mind high school, university, but there is nowhere that they teach us about the credit bureau.
Right.
And you know how important the credit bureau is?
It's giant.
Mike, I won't put you on the spot, but do you know what your credit score is?
You know what? I do.
Never
I
mind.
do. I've been watching that
good.
sliding scale. Yeah, I do.
Good.
I'm not
Good
gonna
for
tell
you.
you what it is, but
No,
it's
I won't. But the important thing is to have an idea,
yeah,
but then there are very specific measures that can be used to improve that and to the number one thing is you should have a credit card, but you should make your payments and not necessarily even in full, but at least make the minimum
right,
payments.
right.
And that so there's a specific there's a chapter set aside in my book that tells about how to work with your credit bureau and the importance of knowing and understanding your credit score. But what many people don't realize is that credit score, even car insurance companies are checking your credit score
Yep.
because you're considered a better automobile accident risk if you're a higher credit score.
Hey,
how does that work?
Some employers are checking credit score.
Credit
Right? They're
employers
seeing,
are checking
are you dedicated? If you're not making payments on time, are you going to be a good employee? You're going to show up on time? Are
That's
you
right.
going to, right?
And perhaps even more astonishing is that even to rent an apartment building, never mind ownership, many landlords check your credit score.
Yep.
And so the credit score becomes vitally important. And I ask the question, why aren't they teaching us about this stuff in school?
Man, I don't know. Is it because that's such a big business?
Well, you know what? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do. My book is What the Financial Institutions Aren't Telling You, and obviously everybody should rush out and buy a couple of copies.
Of course they should.
To their friends and neighbors, but I will be at Coach's Corner offering 30-minute sessions on March 27th, and again, I answer my phone, and it's such an honor to have the opportunity, Mike, through you and your Forged in Fire and this broadcast, Facebook Live. I'm glad to have hooked up with you, and I think you actually reached out to me. So
I certainly
thank
did.
you for that. Yes, and a couple of little things. The T in my direct acronym is take charge.
Right.
We're busy pointing a finger of blame. There's always somebody else at fault if we didn't achieve what we wanted to achieve. But if we remember the T, take charge and take responsibility.
Yeah.
Point that finger back at yourself and say, what am I doing
exactly
to create the circumstances under which I want to, and success. We must define our own success. What is success for you may be, may not, I may say, been there, done that. And a lot of people set their goals way too low.
Yes, sir.
I mentioned everybody wants to be a millionaire. Well, number one, what happens? First thing you know, you wake up and you're there. But then what? And secondly, to become a millionaire today, you can't live like a millionaire. So probably the goal was too low in the first place. All you have to do is look at housing prices in the Greater Toronto area, and you're not going to, and I wonder, and and all kidding aside, you take $1 million home today, how are you going to save up $200,000 just for the down payment? And then how are you going to manage payments on an $800,000 mortgage?
Exactly.
So, there are huge financial issues out there today, and I think that one of the smartest investments that any successful business owner can make is in a good coach. I'm not a financial advisor, but certainly, life is really all about, we don't know what we don't know.
Very true. Very true.
And so there's where I think a direct success coach can offer a service that is meaningful and certainly can save, I mentioned, tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars over the life of a mortgage. So
everybody likes saving money.
That's what it's all about. So and if we can make that step, and then also information that we provide for the generations going forward, for our children, for our grandchildren, to have a purpose that is more than, one of the saddest things. My wife was 33 years as a school teacher, and she had kids that the father and grandfather had been on welfare. Right here in the city of Toronto, we have second, third generation welfare kids. So somehow we have to all work together and be mindful that there is a way out, and there are opportunities. There are tremendous opportunities. Again, the kids today that are entering and graduating from university and colleges, we have tremendous opportunities looking forward out there. And my prediction would be, being an old guy, I can look back 25 years, but looking ahead, I would say that there are tremendous opportunities ahead.
Of course there are.
We need, absolutely.
We just need to
all of the,
open our eyes and take charge.
And take off the blinkers but be looking to develop that knowledge in the D area, and to have as much information at your fingertips as possible. And then it becomes critically important for applied knowledge.
Yes, sir.
You see, knowledge, we have the knowledge is there. Just Google it, you'll find it.
Right.
But now, how do we apply that knowledge to our own desires, goals, family, health, wealth, and happiness?
Yep, that's what we got to do. It's you touched on something, applying that knowledge, and back when you were talking about debt and student loans, we see so many people coming out of post-secondary, going into it just to go through the motions of getting a post-secondary education without that plan ahead. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I taking these do I have a plan for my life once I get this education, or am I just coming out with $40,000 in debt and going to bag groceries at the grocery store? No knock against anyone bagging groceries. I bagged groceries for a number of years. But if you had gone to school for a specific career, why are we not taking charge and following that? Why are we not, why? I just don't get it. I see so many people out there who are not following through with what they originally intended. I think it's, you know what?
I asked the question earlier, why aren't they teaching us this stuff in school? And the unfortunate truth of the matter is that they are not. And people, financial literacy isn't just something that is, our parents do a good job, they want to point us in the right direction. But in today's complex world, and the banks, by the way, are the biggest, buildings in any city you go into, downtown Toronto or any of the smaller towns we drive through.
They must be making some money.
Oh, well, and a lot of people misunderstand just exactly how they are making their money, because people will say, oh, well, they've charged you fees. But the actual way that they're making their money is on the spread between what they're buying money at and what they're lending it at. And as a business owner, you would know that your business account is not accumulating any interest whatsoever. Most large, mid-size, and medium companies are making deposits, and they're growing their account until the 15th and the 30th of the month.
Yep.
And there's no interest being paid on that money whatsoever.
That's right.
And the banks, quite frankly, are using that very money and lending it out at 28% on Visa cards.
Exactly.
So, exactly.
And is it not true, Doug, that if I give a bank $10, are they not allowed to loan out exponentially on top of that 10 times? Is that not the truth? Something to that effect?
Oh, yeah. And the unfortunate truth, and so we better be at the front of the line, because if we all line up at once, the money's not there.
That's right.
If we all line up to withdraw, well, I thought that was my money. Well, no, you can't have it.
That's right.
So quite literally, that money is all out being circulated, making the banks more money, then they're paying out, and that's where they make their money. And the difference between the overnight rate and on the Bank of Canada right now is, I think, around 2.5% or something like that. But they're not paying even that interest on a business account,
Right.
and they're lending the money out at 28%.
It's genius.
So
It's
it
genius,
doesn't
but
take a yeah.
we just need to be on that side of the equation. Learn how to be like the banks and not the.
Well, and like I say, one of my passions and goals is to put, people on a level playing field, or at least a more level playing field with their banks, and that all starts with knowledge. And so,
Right.
after 35 years there's a whole area of my background and expertise which has to do with fraud prevention.
Right.
And I have been a certified fraud examiner. And one of the things I learned at the banks is that there's huge losses of money through fraud. Mortgage fraud, for example, is one that people don't, because the banks don't talk about it. And that's one of the things the banks aren't telling us. But these losses all end up in cost to the bank clients,
Sure.
typically, which is you and me.
Sure.
And so there's huge costs out there that every now and then you'll see front page news about a mortgage fraud or something, but there's I'm kind of rambling on a little bit here now, but how this affects and applies to ourselves is how we can prevent and how we can, well, I have a 6-step action plan that I'll be more than happy to share, the 6-step action plan on how to outsmart the banks.
Well, we need to do that. But it's like you said, it's about education. It's about knowledge. If you don't even know that it's happening, how can you, how can you battle against it? How can you fix yourself if you don't know what you don't know? So we need to get educated. We need to learn. We need to understand how money works, so then we can make those little steps to better your family and your business, right?
Well, on my webpage, directsuccesscoach.com, you'll see the link to my 6-step action plan on how to outsmart the banks.
And Doug, make sure that you comment below with links to your website. Let people know how they can get your book as well. And we'll be posting links to the Toronto Women's Expo so that people can come and sit with you for 30 minutes and pick that brain of yours.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Perfect. Yeah.
Hey, listen, Doug, I'm going to get into a quick little session here that I'm calling you're on the hot seat now. So I got a few questions I want to run by you so that we can get to know Doug Gray a little better. We know he's the direct success coach, but he's a human being as well. And this is just going to help our viewers engage and kind of put some interesting questions out there to see what our response is. It's kind of a fun little session. So I'm going to ramble off a few questions. Don't take a whole lot of time, but give me what comes to your mind and your heart first. Does that sound fair?
Fair enough.
Awesome.
Answer from the heart.
That's it. That's what it's all about. So, and you know what? The great thing is, as you were speaking, you already hit a bunch of these questions. So, number one, Doug, do you have a morning routine? We always talk about, successful people have habits and routines. Tell me, do you have a morning routine?
I do. And actually, it normally starts at around 6 a.m. And I part of it is physical. I do belong to a fitness club, but I don't usually go to the club until about 8. So typically I have a routine. And by the way, my wife, and I love her dearly, but I usually take her a coffee after I'm finished my fitness club, and 10 o'clock she's very happy to have her coffee and the newspaper, and she'll be in bed till noon. But anyway, that's enough on that. But my routine, sort of pre-physical aspect of my routine, does involve spirituality.
Good.
And I do actually have in my own personal notes in my calendar, I do fill in usually at around 6 o'clock in the morning a couple of points on my own self-evaluation. One of the things that I mentioned earlier, often everybody is wanting to point a finger of blame at somebody else. But I like to take some time every morning to self-evaluate my achievements from the day before, the week before,
Mm-hmm.
and looking ahead. And so I do have a specific formula that I follow on self-evaluation and measuring. One of the things on goals, and it's not my own acronym, but SMART. They must be specific, measurable, attainable. Have you heard of the SMART theory on
I
goals?
have, yes.
So, yeah, so I do measure myself and my own goals based on that SMART formula. And usually that's my routine in the morning is that, and it's part of my self-evaluation. Now, the spirituality part of it is a little bit different, but it's part of the same time frame, sort of that 6 to 8 routine. And I have again, without getting necessarily into any specifics, although I'm happy to do so, but my own beliefs and the supreme being. By the way, I am a member, and it may or may not win me friends, but I'm a member of the Freemasons. I'm a Freemason, and one of the things we talk about is brotherly love,
Yes.
relief, and truth.
Right.
And so, truth is a fascinating word that you can Google it, and the definition on truth has changed over the years. But truth in terms of what is meaningful and true to ourselves. But brotherly love, relief, touches on the charitable aspects of your own relief and giving back in
Right.
general. And so, and you touched on karma, I think, a little earlier, or
Yeah.
in that in terms of what goes around comes around. But it's very, very important to be of that, I like to say giving nature, and if we can offer something up that is going to be meaningful and helpful to somebody else, we're going to benefit ourselves in the longer run. There's no
It
doubt
it
about it.
is
So,
amazing what happens once you start giving. How it's incredible how you just start receiving without even, if
well, if
you
you
give
if you've
without the
experienced,
intention of receiving, it just comes to you.
yeah, and if you've experienced that, then you know the magic. It's
There's no other way to explain it other than magical, right? It's the truth.
no.
When it happens, you're going, what the heck is happening here? How does this shouldn't be the way it is, but it is. It's a universal
And the
law.
actual word magic, Mike, actually, the root goes
Did you say
back to the
magic, Mike?
Magi. Well, the word magic ties back to the origin is biblical in the Magi of the biblical times.
Okay. See, I'm learning.
So there you go. So, but to experience that in life and love of life and love giving, receiving, karma, what goes around comes around, has to start from the focal point of giving.
Yes. Yes.
And if we're all very lucky, there's around 7 billion people on this planet, and there's about 1 billion still living without electricity and running water. So we have to realize how fortunate we are, because if I look around at 10 people in the room, I don't see, 1 billion out of 7 billion is 1 in 7.
Yep.
And we don't see 1 in 7 without electricity or running water.
That is
So
true.
we're very fortunate in this country, although there are those in need. But I talked about the charitable, the brotherly love, relief, and truth. And, we have to be careful with our charitable use of money, because everybody's looking for a
Yep.
handout. The hospitals, everybody's looking for a handout. But worldwide, and certainly at a local level, there is a tremendous need to help our brothers out there, brothers and sisters out there. And so, that's a big part of my morning routine, to
Yeah.
answer that part of your question.
Good stuff. Okay, next one. If you could spend 1 hour with someone a historical figure, someone now deceased, who would be the person that you would choose to spend an hour with, and what would be the first question that you would ask them?
Well, we've had many, many great people in history. Um, I'm always interested to know what, I guess my first question would be, what would be the number one point that you would like to pass on to me? And now who that particular person, who I'd be putting the question to, uh, in the United States of America, George Washington
All right.
was a Mason, for example, and my understanding of Masonic history, which is extensive. The interesting thing about Masonic history is that it ties very closely with world history, even in Ontario. And the Masons came to Canada and the United States, and the growth of both on this continent have been very much hand in hand. But George Washington was a Mason, and I would certainly love to have a face-to-face conversation with George. And I guess my first question would be along the lines of what would he attribute his success to?
All right. Good stuff.
Excuse me.
Doug, if there was one area of study, I think you did touch on this already a little bit. If there was an area of study, a class that you could introduce to the school system, what would the class be, and at what age would you feel that you would want to introduce it?
Well, okay, then if I can answer that question, I hope correctly, but before we start school roughly at age 5 in this country, and children are told no. Children are told the word no 25,000 times before they start school. And in raising our children, number one, I guess my belief is that we don't learn through being told that we have failed. And failure is a concept that is introduced in school. And so we learn by pushing the envelope. And kids are remarkable at that. If preschool children know exactly how to push the envelope,
right.
And eventually they're told no 25,000 times. And that, by the way, is based on a University of Southern California study.
Right.
That was an actual study that was done that indicates that children are told no 25,000 times before they even get into school. So if you've ever heard the little voice in the back of your head, and typically it's telling you no.
I've got a few voices going on, so I'm not sure if that's for another show, but...
But my point and what I'm getting at is that I would encourage at a very young age to continue to push the envelope, and I'm not talking about breaking
but just
the Ten Commandments or major
question
rules,
things.
But question things, seek knowledge, look beyond where you feel comfortable. If you are in your comfort zone, then try to go a little further. Try to push just a little beyond that comfort zone, and that will lead to magical results.
Yep, I agree.
And I would say, do it. I talk about procrastination, and I have a tool that shows my age, but it's the round to it.
Yeah.
Have you heard of a round to it?
Well,
around to it.
I actually was just reading some of your content, and I saw that on there. Yeah, get around to it.
So everybody that attends my table at the Coach's Corner will receive their very own round to it, and the time to do it is now.
Now.
People will procrastinate, and that is one of our failures in life is procrastination.
It is a killer. It is a killer.
There you are.
Okay, Doug, here we go. This is an out-of-the-box question. I got 2 more for you, and then we're going to wrap it up and let you get on with your evening. What is the one item that you would put in a 1,000-year time capsule, knowing that it's going to be open? What item would you put in there so that you could show whatever being would be opening that up in 1,000 years, something about us now, what would you put in a time capsule, Doug? I'm making you think. I'm making you think.
This is way out of the box.
It is.
But I would say Christopher Columbus did not discover North America.
All right. I like it.
I hope they're not still teaching kids that in school, but
they probably are.
That's
somewhere.
What I was taught.
Yep.
So, all kidding aside, it would be something like that. If the time capsule, you see, if we go back to ancient Egyptian history, they knew the exact circumference of the Earth within inches or millimeters of what we know it to be today, and yet somehow through the Middle Ages in European history, they thought the world was flat.
Right.
And I guess Christopher Columbus set out partially to
sail off the edge.
To show that it wasn't, but I guess he was wanting to get to the West Indies. No idea that North America would be in the way. But no, Christopher Columbus did not discover North America. The world is not flat, and I guess those are a couple of points because man has a remarkable way of forgetting knowledge that has already existed.
Right.
And that's my point on ancient Egypt. We knew the world was round. How did we get to the point that we thought again it was flat?
Yeah.
So my time capsule. There you go. That's my time capsule.
I like it. Okay, last one here, Doug. Last one. Assuming you're going to choose a traditional way to exit this world, what would you like? What would you expect? What do you want to be inscripted on your headstone? Another way to say it is, if you're flying a plane around the world with a big banner hanging off the back end, what do you want your message to the world to be?
Well, getting back to the headstone.
Okay, so you've already thought this.
It's kind of a joke in a way because we live in a 2-story house here, and we go upstairs to bed, and I always go up before my wife. But I said one time I'm going to have on her headstone, I'll be right up.
That's good. I like that.
But my own headstone, well, maybe I'll be right up.
I'll be right up.
I did touch on spirituality earlier, and I don't consider myself particularly a religious person in terms of a specific denomination or attending church Sunday morning, but I certainly do have strong feelings and beliefs specifically to do with spirituality. And so looking beyond, I think that we've had thousands and thousands of years of world history. I think that typically we want to believe that our own 75 or 100 years on this planet is the most important. and I don't really think it is. I think that there's time before us and there'll be time after us.
Right.
And so I want my own contribution to be in my own little corner of this world and doing what good I can do while I'm here. And that'll be a very lengthy inscription on my tombstone.
Well, if it's shortened up, it's something to the effect of, "Here's Doug. He left the world in a better place than when he got here."
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with doing unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So speaking of doing unto others, you're going to be doing unto others on the 27th, sharing the information that you've accumulated over the course of your business life and spilling it out to people, which is incredible. That's what we all need.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to it, and I hope to see as many of my Facebook friends there as possible, and I certainly hope to see as many, hopefully people that are looking to improve and better their own lot in life, and entrepreneurs who are successful but want to do better.
That's it. We never stop learning, right? So even the most successful out there, I believe they'll tell you they never stop learning. So if you're watching, if you're planning on coming out to see Doug, stay open. We never stop learning. We can always gain little pearls of wisdom from folks like Doug and the other coaches that are going to be at Toronto Women's Expo. So guys, thanks, Doug. I really appreciate you coming on, taking the time out of your evening. Again, post the links for your book, your business, and how folks can get a hold of you as well.
Will do.
I appreciate it, Doug. You take care.
Well, again, we'll keep in touch, Mike, and
Absolutely.
I thank you very much.
All right. Take care of yourself, my friend. Wow. There he is. I clicked the off button as he was saying something. Sorry, Doug, if you're still watching. Okay, guys, that's it. Mind Body Bank Account, episode 20. It's in the books, baby. So if you haven't already booked tickets, follow my link below. Get a hold of Doug. Get to the Toronto Women's Expo. Pick his brain. Find out what he's doing and how he can help you in your business and your personal life. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the show. Yeah, we'll get more into these questions that I have for my guests as we continue on with Mind Body Bank Account. I'm also thinking about changing the premise of my show coming up in April and having a call-in show. So if you have questions about how to better your life, your business, your relationship, anything, we're gonna give you the option to come on live, ask the question live. And if you are watching and you want to give advice on that question, we can get you on to give that advice live as well. We can also comment in the comment section, ask your questions, and anyone out there who feels that they have something to give, feel free to comment. We'll see how it goes. It's all about learning and growing and trying new things. So let's not be afraid to put ourselves out there, push the envelope, have that mind open to possibility. So we're gonna try something new and see how it goes, guys. All right, you take care. Have yourself a great evening. And remember, keep your mind open, your body strong, and your bank account growing. Until we meet again, it's Mike Kett, and I'm Forged by the Fire. See you guys.